Okay, ready?
Okay. They are fired up today.
Last night they were, I think, too. All right, whenever you're ready.
Don't remember how to turn this on. Still on? Did Jerry come back? He said he was soon.
He said it's on.
You want me to give the same instruction as yesterday? Okay. Not very. I'm new to all this.
You're doing great. And you're so nervous. Oh, yeah, and you did so great.
I know, I was not expecting. And I'm glad somebody thought to bring you guys up to speed. Got it. Perfect. Okay.
All right, there you go.
Jerry, are we ready? I have to do anything to Jerry? Do I have to do anything to this?
Let's make sure it's on.
Is it?
It looks like it should be on. Let's see if it's... Test. It's working.
Hello.
Ding, 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 ding.
Hi, everybody.
Attention, please.
Thank you all so much for coming. We really appreciate you all being here. Can you hear me? Is that better? Okay, hi. Thank you everybody so much for coming. If you don't know me, my name is Naomi Young and I'm the programs chair here. Today we have a guest speaker and author, Judy Selden Cohen. She wrote a book called Recharging Judaism, which we have copies of over here if you would like to buy one. They're $18, $8 of it goes to the synagogue, this synagogue. So let me know if you're interested in that. Judy spent 10 years as a community advocate in Charlotte, North Carolina, which led to her becoming a volunteer organizer and chairing an endowment for rental subsidies. She was a management consultant at Bose Allen in Chicago, and if you were here last night, you heard her talk about being a vice president for ticketing for the Jacksonville Jaguars, and then she co-authored this book with her rabbi, so she's here to talk to us today about becoming more active in the community and all that kind of fun stuff. So thank you guys very much.
Thank you. Whoop.
Okay, I'll turn it down.
So if you just turn yours off. Great. All right. Thank you, Naomi. And thank you, too, for the lay-led service this morning. One of the joys in writing this book with my pulpit rabbi was that together we interviewed 50 lay leaders and clergy across the country. Lay leaders like yourselves who take an active role in their synagogues to make change in their local communities, in their states, and in this country. And each synagogue picks the issue that moves them, and the results of this led to the title of our book, Recharging Judaism, How Civic Engagement is Good for Us as Jews in terms of renewing our faith and finding a Judaism that appeals to us, how it's good for our synagogues in terms of strengthening our synagogues, bringing new people into our congregations, surfacing new leaders for our synagogues, and good for this country in terms of preserving democracy and making people more active in the civic world that we live in. So we're going to start with a parable, a story. A villager is walking along a river. You might recognize this river. And the villager sees a stranger struggling in the current. So the villager jumps into the river and pulls the stranger to safety. And then the villager is hailed as a local hero. A few days later, another villager is strolling down the river and sees another stranger struggling in the current, and this villager also rescues another stranger. Soon, they set up lifeguards along the river to watch for villagers, so that the villagers can watch to see if someone is struggling in the river. And then they have a town meeting, and they say, maybe we should raise money for the latest technology and rescuing people. And finally, somebody stands up and says, maybe we should go upstream and see why so many people are falling in the river. So let's talk about that. So we're going to pass out some text sheets. And I have just blown it by reading the first text myself. Let me just keep one up here so that, okay. And so let's talk for a second about what was so startling about someone saying, let's go upstream. Why does everybody laugh? Why do we stop when it makes so much sense to be rescuing one villager after another? Anyone?
You're not seeing the big picture.
We're not seeing the big picture. Exactly. We're so focused on the task of the moment. You see a crisis, and so you respond to the crisis. But what happened in the village was that finally someone said, let's look at the big picture. And this is how we get to the issue of civic engagement, because it's the difference between social action and social justice. So when we talk about social action, we are talking about the crisis of the moment. Someone is drowning in the river, someone is starving, and so we need to feed them. Someone is homeless, and so we need to house them for that night. Someone is freezing, so we need to get blankets. And that is the work to alleviate hardship. What Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. said was that social justice aims to eradicate the root cause of that hardship. This is looking at the bigger picture, going upstream to say, yes, we need to deal with the crisis of the moment. We can't let people drown or starve or freeze to death. But we also have to look at the root causes of the injustice that led them to become cold or hungry or homelessness. And that is social justice. My co-author and I picked the phrase civic engagement in talking about this whole range of work that synagogues do, from social action to social justice. Civic engagement is addressing an injustice to improve our collective future as Jews, as a community, as a city, a state, or this country. It is nonpartisan, although sometimes it involves political processes. And this is something that was really important, because sometimes when you talk about social justice, people look at it as a coded word for liberalism. And that is not what civic engagement is. Regardless of your political affiliation, civic engagement is us as Americans getting involved in democracy and working to make a better collective future for all of us. It also is exerting our power as consumers or stakeholders. So it might involve legislation, state legislation, city council, or Congress, but it also might involve an institution in the community that is not treating workers fairly, or doing an institution that needs to create more affordable housing, and we as consumers and stakeholders can voice what we think needs to happen, and we call all of that civic engagement. What we put together, based on 50 interviews across the country, talking to various synagogues, and we talked to small synagogues and large synagogues. We talked to synagogues in rural areas and synagogues in urban areas. Blue states, red states. Synagogues like yours where there's one game in town, and synagogues where in Boston where if you're not happy with that synagogue, there are 6 more right there for you to choose among. And this work spans that whole range of congregations. So we talk about the ladder of civic engagement starting here with volunteering. That volunteering in many ways gets us started on the path. And let me just, let's go. And this is where many congregations of all faiths start, right? We're going to volunteer at the soup kitchen, we're going to volunteer at a homeless shelter, and help with the immediate need. Where we next go is to educating. As we see homeless in our community, we want to learn about who is homeless, why are they homeless, what are other communities doing in order to heal the homelessness in their communities, to start looking at root causes. And then some of us are moved to donate, to donate our treasure to help alleviate this hardship. And when you do these three things, there's not a lot of controversy. This is where congregations of all faiths are very much involved. When you start climbing the ladder into advocacy,